Jack Miller loved the quiet of early morning patrols in Glacier National Park. The sun was just coming up over the Montana mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. After 15 years as a park ranger, he thought he had seen everything these woods could offer. He was wrong. The first sign was the broken trees. Dozens of them, snapped like toothpicks along the ridge. Jack stopped his truck and grabbed his binoculars from the passenger seat. Something had carved a half-mile scar through the forest. "Dispatch, this is Ranger Miller," he said into his radio. "I've got what looks like a landslide or crash site near Bear Hat Mountain. Going to check it out." The radio crackled. "Copy that, Miller. Be careful out there." Jack followed the trail of destruction uphill. The damage was fresh, maybe just a few days old. Strange that nobody had reported anything. As he crested the ridge, he stopped dead in his tracks. What in the world? In the valley below sat a massive object, partially buried in the earth. It was clearly not a plane or helicopter. The shape was all wrong, smooth and oval, at least the size of a football field. The outside was a dark metal that seemed to absorb the morning light rather than reflect it. Jack's hand shook as he raised the radio again. "Dispatch, you need to call someone, FBI, military, whoever. I think I found a crashed spaceship." Within hours, black helicopters filled the sky. Men in hazmat suits swarmed the site. Jack found himself being questioned by stern-faced officials who seemed more interested in what he might have touched than what he had seen. "Mr. Miller, I'm Colonel Thomas West," said a tall man with close-cropped gray hair. Unlike the others, he wore a regular Army uniform. "Thank you for your service today. What you found is now a matter of national security." "It's alien, isn't it?" Jack asked. "An actual spaceship?" Colonel West's face remained neutral. "We're going to need you to sign some papers." Dr. Elena Rivera had been eating breakfast when the call came. Now, 12 hours later, she stood before the most important discovery in human history. "Preliminary scans show no radiation risk," said one of her team. "The hull appears intact except for damage at what we believe is the propulsion section." Elena nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. After years of studying theoretical xenotechnology at MIT, then being recruited to a classified government program, she was finally looking at proof that humanity was not alone. "Dr. Rivera," called Colonel West, "you have clearance to approach the vessel." Elena put on her hazmat suit and walked slowly toward the ship. Up close she could see strange symbols etched into the hull. Not random patterns, but clearly a written language. She placed her hand on the metal surface. It was cool to the touch, not cold like steel would be. "Amazing," she whispered. A small team followed her around the perimeter. The ship had dug a deep trench when it crashed, but remained largely intact. Whatever it was made of, it was stronger than any material on Earth. "There," said Elena, pointing to what looked like a seam in the hull. That could be an entrance. 2 days later they managed to open the ship. Teams of scientists and military personnel worked around the clock, setting up a secure base around the crash site. The world's governments had been informed, but the SCI-FI public remained in the dark, for now. Inside the ship was beyond anything Elena had imagined. Corridors with gravity that seemed to pull in different directions. Rooms that changed shape slightly when no one was looking directly at them. Control panels made of something that wasn't quite metal or plastic, that seemed to glow from within. "Based on the dust patterns and system status, I'd estimate this ship has been here about 15 years, Elena told Colonel West as they stood in what appeared to be the main control room. The crew evacuated in a hurry. "Look here." She pointed to several empty slots in a wall panel. "These appear to be escape pod launchers, all deployed. So the aliens could still be on Earth?" West asked, his voice tense. "Possibly, or they could have been picked up by another ship. Without access to their communication systems, it's hard to know." A young technician rushed into the room. "Dr. Rivera, we got one of their computer systems working." The alien data was impossible to translate, but the images were clear enough. The ship belonged to a species that called themselves something unpronounceable. The translation team nicknamed them Vraxians, after a symbol that appeared frequently in their communications. "They're explorers, as far as we can tell," Elena explained during a briefing with top military and government officials 1 month after the discovery. "Their ship was damaged by some kind of space anomaly, and they made an emergency landing on Earth. And they've left us quite a gift," said the Secretary of Defense. "The technologies in that ship are centuries beyond our own." Colonel West nodded. "We've already identified power systems that could replace fossil fuels entirely. Material stronger and lighter than anything we've ever developed. And the propulsion system, if we can understand it, we could reach Mars in days instead of months." "What about weapons?" asked a general. "Nothing obvious," Elena said quickly. "They seem to be a scientific vessel, not military." "Every ship has defenses," the general insisted. Elena chose not to argue. The truth was, she had found weapon systems, advanced ones. But something about the general's eager expression made her hesitate to share everything. Over the next 3 years, humanity made incredible progress. Reverse engineering the alien technology led to breakthroughs in energy production, medicine, and materials science. Special factories were built to produce new devices based on Vraxian designs. The first human spacecraft using alien propulsion was already under construction. The world knew about the ship now. The discovery had been too big to hide. But people had adapted quickly to the idea that they weren't alone in the universe. The fear that aliens might return seemed to fade as years passed with no sign of them. That changed on a quiet Tuesday evening. Elena was working late in her lab at the crash site, now a massive research facility named Project Icarus. She'd been studying a damaged component from the ship's communication array when her computer chimed with an alert. Something inside the ship had activated on its own. She rushed through the facility to the ship's bridge. The main console, dark for 3 years despite all attempts to power it, now glowed with alien symbols. "What happened?" she asked the night shift technician. "Nothing. It just turned on by itself about 5 minutes ago." Colonel West arrived moments later, summoned by security protocols. "Is it a threat?" "I don't think so," Elena said, studying the patterns. "It looks like... oh no." "What?" "It's a distress beacon," she said quietly. "The ship has finally repaired itself enough to call for help." "Can we shut it down?" West asked. A technician tried, but the controls wouldn't respond. "It's locked us out." "How long has it been transmitting?" Elena asked. "According to these readings, almost 3 hours now." Elena and Colonel West exchanged worried glances. After 3 years of peace, they both had the same terrible thought. What if someone was listening? In the darkness of deep space, a Vraxian commander received an alert from a communications officer. "Commander Krell, we've detected an automated distress signal." "Source?" Krell asked, his 4 eyes narrowing. "It's the research vessel Toraak, the one lost 15 cycles ago." Krell stood up from his command chair. "Impossible. That ship was destroyed. The signal is authentic, Commander, and it's coming from the 3rd planet of a yellow star system, a primitive world we cataloged, but never fully explored. Set course immediately," Krell ordered, "and inform the High Command. Our lost ship has been found." 3 years had changed everything. Where once there had been a simple crash site in the Montana wilderness, there now stood a massive research facility. Tall fences surrounded the area, and armed guards patrolled day and night. Inside those fences, humanity's brightest minds worked to understand the alien technology. No one had worked harder than Dr. Elena Rivera. She had barely left the facility in 3 years, dedicating her life to unlocking the secrets of the Vraxian ship. "The power core is the key," she told Colonel West as they walked through her laboratory. "If we can fully understand how it works, we could provide clean energy for the entire planet." Around them, teams of scientists tested materials and devices based on the alien technology. Some worked on new metals stronger than steel, but lighter than plastic. Others studied the ship's medical equipment, which could heal injuries in minutes. Colonel West nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. "Any progress on disabling that distress beacon?" Elena shook her head. "No, It's completely locked us out. It's been transmitting for 6 months now. And no way to know if anyone is listening, West said grimly. As if answering his question, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. West's radio crackled to life. Colonel, we have a situation. Report to the command center immediately. The command center was filled with tense military personnel when Elena and West arrived. Large screens showed satellite images and radar data. What's happening? West demanded. A young officer pointed to one of the screens. Sir, Space Command. Detected multiple objects entering the solar system near Neptune's orbit. They appeared out of nowhere, suggesting some kind of faster-than-light travel. How many objects? Elena asked, her heart racing. 7 large vessels, sir, each one bigger than our largest aircraft carrier. The room fell silent. After years of preparation, the moment they had feared had finally arrived. Earth was no longer alone. Get me the president, West ordered, and activate the Earth Defense Protocol. Jack Miller had returned to his job as a park ranger after signing countless secrecy documents. He had tried to go back to normal life, but nothing felt the same after what he had seen. When the news broke 3 years ago about the alien ship, he had watched with the strange feeling of someone who had been part of history. Now, as he drove his truck along a forest road, the radio suddenly cut out. A moment later, every station was broadcasting the same emergency message. This is an international alert. Unknown spacecraft have entered our solar system and are approaching Earth. This is not a drill. All citizens should remain calm and follow instructions from local authorities. Jack turned his truck around. He knew exactly where he needed to go. Within hours, the aliens made contact. Their message was broadcast on every television and radio channel around the world. People of Earth. We are the Vraxian Collective. We have detected our property in your possession. The vessel you have taken belongs to us. Return it immediately, along with any technologies you have derived from it. Failure to comply will result in severe consequences. You have 24 hours to respond. The message was accompanied by images of the 7 massive ships now positioned between Earth and the Moon. They were dark and angular, clearly built for war rather than exploration. In the White House Situation Room, world leaders gathered via video conference to discuss their response. We cannot simply surrender the ship, said the president. The technologies we've developed are too important for humanity's future. But can we stand against them? Asked another leader. Their ships are massive. We have no idea what weapons they possess. Elena, who had been invited to provide scientific expertise, spoke up. I believe negotiation is possible. The fact that they're communicating at all suggests they don't want to destroy us outright. Or they're simply following protocol before they wipe us out, said a general. Colonel West had a different view. We're not as defenseless as they might think. We've made significant progress with their technology. Can we fight them? The president asked directly. West chose his words carefully. We can't match them ship for ship, but we've developed defensive capabilities that might surprise them. Commander Krell watched the blue planet on his view screen. After months of travel, they had finally arrived. The lost research ship had somehow crashed on this backwater world, and now these primitives were refusing to return it. The humans have responded to our message, reported his communications officer. They wish to negotiate. Krell snorted in disgust. Negotiate? The ship is ours. They have no right to it. There's something else, Commander, said his science officer nervously. We've been scanning their planet. They appear to have already adapted some of our technology. Impossible, Krell said. The ship was damaged, and these creatures are primitive. Nevertheless, we're detecting energy signatures consistent with Vraxian power systems, and their orbital satellites show clear signs of our influence. Krell's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. This was unexpected. The ship had crashed only 15 cycles ago. For such a primitive species to understand Vraxian technology so quickly was concerning. Set up the communication link, he ordered. I will speak to their leaders myself. The United Nations General Assembly had been chosen as the site for humanity's first official contact with an alien species. Elena and Colonel West sat in the front row as the massive screen showed Commander Krell's face for the first time. The alien had 4 large eyes set in a face covered with small scales. His mouth was wide and lipless. Most shocking was how almost human he looked despite the differences. "People of Earth," Krell began. "I am Commander Krell of the Vraxian Collective. We have come to reclaim our property." The Secretary General stepped forward. "Commander, we welcome you to our solar system. We hope we can find a peaceful solution to this situation." "There is only one solution," Krell replied coldly. "Return our vessel and all derived technologies immediately." "The ship crashed on our planet," the Secretary General explained. "We didn't steal it." "Yet you took it apart. You stole our knowledge." "We studied it, yes, as would any curious species." Krell's eyes narrowed. "Your species has used our technology to advance yourselves unnaturally. This was not authorized by the Collective." Elena whispered to Colonel West. "He sounds almost afraid." West nodded slightly. "They didn't expect us to understand their technology so quickly." On the screen, Krell continued, "We will allow you 1 standard cycle to prepare. You will deliver the ship and all derived technologies to the location of its original crash. Any attempt to keep our property will be considered an act of war." The screen went dark. The Secretary General turned to the assembled leaders. "I believe we just received an ultimatum." Elena stood up. "There's something you all need to know. I've discovered something in the ship's database that changes everything." All eyes turned to her. "The Vraxians aren't the original creators of this technology," she said. "Based on historical records I found buried in the ship's computers, they scavenged most of their advanced technology from ruins of an ancient civilization." "Are you certain?" asked the President. "Yes," Elena replied. "The Vraxians didn't build that ship. They found it just like we did. The only difference is that they've had it longer." Colonel West smiled grimly. "So they're not coming to reclaim their property. They're coming to make sure no one else gets it." "Exactly," Elena said. "And there's something else they don't know." Before she could finish, alarms sounded again. One of West's officers rushed into the chamber. "Sir, the Vraxians have launched smaller vessels. They're heading toward major cities worldwide." The first shots of an interstellar war had been fired. The Vraxian attack was not what anyone expected. Instead of bombs or lasers, their smaller ships released thousands of small drone-like machines over major cities. These drones didn't attack people. Instead, they targeted research facilities, power plants, and military bases that showed signs of using alien technology. "They're not trying to kill us," Colonel West said as he watched footage of the attacks. "They're trying to set us back." 6 hours after the drone attacks began, they stopped as suddenly as they had started. The small ships returned to the Vraxian fleet. Then came another message from Commander Krell. "You have experienced a small demonstration of our power. Your attempts to use our technology against us will fail. We now give you 6 months to gather all pieces of our ship and all devices made from our technology. After that time, we will take back what is ours, whatever the cost." The world's leaders met again, this time with greater urgency. "6 months, the President said. That's how long we have to prepare." "Why wait 6 months?" asked the British Prime Minister. "Why not attack now when we're already damaged?" Elena, who had been studying data from the attacks, spoke up. "I believe they need time too. The fact that they used drones instead of direct weapons suggests they're being cautious. They don't know exactly how much of their technology we've managed to understand." Colonel West nodded. "Dr. Rivera is right. They expected to find primitives with a crashed ship, not a species that had already adapted their technology. They're reassessing." "Then we use these 6 months wisely," said the President. "Colonel, you will coordinate global defense preparations. Dr. Rivera, you have unlimited resources to learn everything you can from that ship." The next day, Jack Miller arrived at Project Icarus. He had driven non-stop from Glacier National Park, showing his old security clearance at the gate. "I need to see Dr. Rivera," he told the guards. Elena was surprised to see him. "Jack, what are you doing here?" "I found the ship first," he said simply. I've been following everything you've done with it. I want to help. We need all the help we can get, Elena admitted, especially from someone who knew the ship before we started taking it apart. She led him into the facility, which was now buzzing with activity. The drone attacks had destroyed some research labs, but the main facility at the crash site remained untouched. The Vraxians were careful not to damage their own ship, Elena explained as they walked toward the vessel, but they tried to destroy our reverse-engineered technology. Inside the ship, teams of scientists worked frantically. Jack was amazed at how much had changed since he'd last seen it. Walls had been removed, systems exposed, and human computers connected to alien interfaces. We've learned so much, Elena said, but there's still so much we don't understand. Over the next few weeks, military forces around the world began to prepare. Weapons using alien technology were rushed into production. Defense systems were built around major cities. Every satellite and telescope watched the Vraxian fleet, which remained positioned between Earth and the Moon. Colonel West established a unified Earth Defense Force, bringing together soldiers from every nation. For the first time in history, humanity stood united against a common threat. The Vraxians have given us one advantage, West told his international team of officers. Time. We will use every second of it. On the Vraxian command ship, Commander Krell faced growing pressure. His superiors were not pleased with his decision to delay retrieval of the ship. The humans are dangerous, he argued during a communication with the collective's High Council. They have adapted our technology at an alarming rate. A direct attack would cost many Vraxian lives. Your job is to retrieve the ship, Commander, said High Counselor Mez. Not to admire the local wildlife. I am not admiring them, Krell insisted. I am respecting them as a threat. Our scans show they have already developed weapons based on our technology. All the more reason to strike quickly. No, all the more reason to be careful. We need time to study their defenses to find the best approach. High Counselor Mez narrowed her 4 eyes. You have the time you requested, Commander. 6 months, not 1 day more. Back on Earth, Elena made a breakthrough. Working with Jack, who had an intuitive understanding of the ship's layout, she discovered a hidden chamber deep within the vessel. It was sealed with a different kind of technology, she explained to Colonel West. That's why we missed it in our earlier scans. Inside the chamber, they found what looked like weapon schematics. But these were different from the defensive systems they had already discovered on the ship. These weapons are far more advanced than anything the Vraxians used in their attack, Elena said, examining the designs. And look at these symbols. They're similar to the ones on the ship, but different in key ways. What does that mean? West asked. It means the Vraxians either don't have these weapons or don't understand how to use them, Elena replied. Remember what I discovered before. They scavenged this technology from another civilization. Jack, who had been studying the ship's control systems for weeks, added, I think there are patterns here that suggest the ship has capabilities the Vraxians never accessed. Like what? West asked. Like recognition systems, Jack said. Parts of the ship that seemed to be waiting for the right user. Elena looked at him with excitement. You think the original builders included some kind of security system? A way to prevent their technology from being misused? Exactly, Jack nodded. The more I study the control panels, the more I'm convinced they're designed for hands different from the Vraxians. Maybe hands more like ours. Colonel West looked skeptical. That's a big maybe to bet the planet on. It's worth investigating, Elena insisted. If there's even a chance the ship will respond to humans in ways it didn't for the Vraxians, we need to know. As the months passed, both sides prepared. On Earth, new weapons were tested and defensive positions strengthened. In orbit, the Vraxian fleet studied human defenses and planned their attack. Commander Krell spent hours reviewing the data on humans. They were adaptable, resourceful, and surprisingly unified in the face of threat. Not at all what he had expected. From a species that had only recently discovered space travel, there's something unusual about these humans, he told his second-in-command. Something familiar. Sir? The way they've adapted our technology so quickly. It reminds me of the ancient records of how our ancestors first discovered the ruins of the Forerunners. You think there's a connection? Krell stared at the blue planet on his view screen. I don't know, but I intend to find out. The 6-month deadline approached. Earth's defenses were as ready as they could be. The Vraxian fleet began to move into attack position. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The 6 months passed too quickly. On the final day of the deadline, the Vraxian fleet began to move. Their 7 massive warships spread out, taking positions above major cities across the globe. In the command center at Project Icarus, Colonel West watched the movement on large screens. Beside him stood world leaders connected through secure video calls. They're positioning for a coordinated attack, West said. Just as we expected. The president's face was grim on the main screen. Are our defenses ready? As ready as they can be, West replied. The new weapons have been distributed worldwide. Our pilots have trained with the reverse-engineered fighters, but we're still outnumbered and outgunned. And the ship? Asked the president. Dr. Rivera's special project? West glanced at another screen showing Elena and Jack working inside the alien vessel. Still in progress, no guarantees. Understood. Good luck, Colonel. To all of us. As the screens went dark, one of West's officers called out, Sir, we have movement from the Vraxian fleet. They're launching dropships. On the monitors, hundreds of smaller vessels detached from the main ships heading toward Earth's atmosphere. The battle for humanity had begun. Commander Krell watched from his command chair as the attack force descended toward the blue planet. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The humans had ignored his ultimatum as expected. Now they would learn what it meant to defy the Vraxian collective. First wave approaching the atmosphere, reported his tactical officer. Remind all commanders, Krell said. Primary objective is securing the ship. Secondary objective is disabling their reverse-engineered technology. Minimize native casualties where possible. He wasn't being merciful. The collective preferred to exploit planets rather than destroy them. Dead humans had no value. Conquered humans might be useful someday. Sir, we're detecting energy signatures from the surface, the tactical officer said suddenly. They appear to be defensive systems, based on our own technology. Krell leaned forward. Show me. The display revealed weapon emplacements around major cities and military bases. They were crude by Vraxian standards, but recognizable adaptations of Vraxian designs. They've been busy, Krell murmured. Adjust attack pattern. Target those defenses first. The sky over Montana filled with alien ships. The first wave targeted the defensive ring around Project Icarus, where the original ship remained. Laser fire cut through the air, striking human tanks and artillery positions. Colonel West directed the defense from an underground bunker. Hold the line. We need to buy Dr. Rivera more time. Earth's military forces fought back with everything they had. New fighter jets equipped with energy weapons based on Vraxian technology engaged the alien dropships. On the ground, soldiers fired weapons that could penetrate alien armor. The humans fought with desperate courage, knowing the entire planet's fate hung in the balance. But the Vraxians had centuries more experience with their own technology. Slowly they pushed forward, breaking through the outer defenses. Deep inside the alien ship, Elena and Jack worked frantically. For months they had studied the hidden chamber and its secrets. Now they were making their final attempt to activate what they believed was an integrated defense system. The patterns in the control panel match these symbols here, Jack said, pointing to markings on a wall. I think they're instructions, not decorations. Elena nodded, making adjustments to the connections between their computers and the ship's systems. The material analysis confirms it. The control interfaces were designed for hands with 5 fingers, not the 4-fingered hands the Vraxians have. That's why they never accessed these systems, Jack realized. They physically couldn't. Outside, they could hear explosions as the battle drew closer. The facility shook with each impact. We're running out of time, Elena said, fear in her voice. Jack looked at the strange circular depression in the center of the control panel. It was sized perfectly for a human hand. I think I know what we need to do, he said quietly. On the surface, the Earth Defense Force was losing ground. The Vraxian troops had landed and were moving toward the facility in large numbers. Their weapons were more powerful, their armor stronger. Colonel West received the reports with growing dread. "Fall back to the secondary line. Protect the entrance to the ship at all costs." A soldier shouted, "Sir, the east perimeter is breached. They're inside the facility." West grabbed his rifle. "Hold this position. I'm heading to the ship." Inside the ship, Elena and Jack heard the sounds of fighting drawing closer. "It's now or never," Jack said. He placed his hand on the circular panel. Nothing happened. "Try the sequence again," Elena urged. Jack touched the symbols they had identified, then placed his hand on the panel once more. Still nothing. Elena's shoulders slumped. "We were wrong." "No," Jack insisted. "We're missing something." He studied the panel again, noticing a small indentation near the edge. "Here, there's something." When he pressed it, the circular panel glowed with soft blue light. "Now try," Elena whispered. Jack placed his hand on the glowing circle. This time the entire chamber hummed with energy. The walls came alive with light, patterns flowing across surfaces that had been dark for years. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a space they had never seen before. Inside stood what looked like a glass pillar. As they watched in amazement, the pillar filled with swirling light that slowly took on a humanoid shape. "Genetic verification accepted," said a voice unlike any they had heard before. It spoke in a language they didn't recognize, yet somehow they understood perfectly. "Eldarin descendant identified." "Eldarin?" Elena repeated, confused. The light formed into a figure that looked almost human, but with slightly elongated features and eyes that glowed with inner light. "I am a guide program, created by the Eldarin civilization," the figure said. "This vessel belongs to our people. You carry our genetic markers modified by time but recognizable." "Are you saying humans are related to your species?" Jack asked in disbelief. "The Eldarin seeded many worlds with compatible life before our civilizations, and," the guide explained, "Earth was one such world. You are distant descendants, though you have evolved on your own path." The walls of the chamber displayed star maps and images of a highly advanced civilization. Then it showed the Vraxians discovering abandoned Eldarin cities and taking their technology. "The Vraxians are not authorized users," the guide continued. "They found our abandoned outposts after the Great Decline. They use our technology but cannot access its full potential." Suddenly, the door to the chamber burst open. Colonel West stumbled in, bleeding from a shoulder wound. "They've breached the main entrance. The Vraxians are inside the ship." The guide's light pulsed. "Threat detected, activating defense protocols." Throughout the ship, systems that had been dormant for centuries came to life. The battle for Earth had reached its turning point. A strange hum filled the air as the ship's systems activated. Lights flickered on throughout corridors that had been dark for years. In the control room, screens and panels lit up with symbols that flowed and changed. "What's happening?" Colonel West asked, his gun still pointed at the door where Vraxian soldiers would appear any moment. "The ship is waking up," Elena explained, watching in awe as dormant systems came to life around them. "It recognizes Jack as a descendant of its builders." The holographic guide spoke again. "Defensive protocols engaged. Unauthorized users will be removed from this vessel." Outside the hidden chamber, they heard strange sounds followed by shouts of confusion. When they peered into the corridor, they saw Vraxian soldiers backing away from walls that seemed to ripple with energy. Weapons in the aliens' hands sparked and shut down. "The ship is disabling their technology," Elena realized. Colonel West touched his radio. "All Earth forces, hold position. Something's happening with the alien ship." Commander Krell stormed through the human facility, 4 elite guards at his side. After months of planning, he would finally reclaim the lost vessel. His troops had broken through the outer defenses and were securing the area around the ship. "Status report," he demanded as they approached the vessel's main entrance. "Our first team entered the ship 2 minutes ago," a guard reported. "We lost communication with them shortly after." Krell frowned. Technical interference, perhaps. We'll proceed anyway. As they entered the ship, Krell felt a sense of familiarity. Though he had never served on this particular research vessel, all Vraxian ships shared similar designs. Or so, he thought. The corridor ahead suddenly seemed different. The walls pulsed with light patterns he had never seen before. His communication device went dead. Then, most alarmingly, his personal weapon powered down. "What's happening?" one of his guards asked, panic in his voice. Before Krell could answer, a voice echoed through the corridor, speaking in a language that seemed to bypass his ears and go straight to his mind. "Unauthorized genetic signature detected. You are trespassing in Eldaran property." A holographic figure appeared before them, humanoid but clearly not human. It had elongated features and eyes that glowed with inner light. "Eldaran?" Krell whispered. The word was familiar from ancient Vraxian texts, the name of the legendary civilization whose ruins had provided the foundation for Vraxian technology. "This vessel does not belong to the Vraxian collective," the hologram stated. "Your people found abandoned Eldaran technology and claimed it as your own. You have no rights to this ship." Krell's mind raced. This changed everything. "Where are the humans? I demand to speak with them." In the control room, Jack stood with his hand still on the circular panel. Through the ship's systems, he could somehow sense what was happening throughout the vessel. It was as if the ship had formed a connection with him. "The Vraxian commander is on board," he told Elena and Colonel West. "The ship has neutralized his weapons." "Can you communicate with him through the ship?" Elena asked. Jack nodded, unsure how he knew he could do this. "I think so." He closed his eyes, focusing on the ship's communication systems. Somehow he knew which mental commands would activate them. "Commander Krell," he said. "This is Jack Miller. I think we need to talk." In a large chamber near the center of the ship, both sides met. Jack, Elena, and Colonel West stood on one side. Commander Krell and two of his guards stood on the other. Between them hovered the Eldaran guide. "Impossible," Krell said, looking at the hologram. "The Eldarans disappeared millennia ago." "Their civilization fell," Elena replied, "but their legacy remained, including on Earth. We are their descendants." "That cannot be," Krell insisted. "We found their technology first. We are their rightful successors." The guide spoke. "The Eldarans seeded many worlds before their decline. Earth was one. The humans carry Eldaran genetic markers, which is why this vessel responds to them in ways it never did to your people." Jack stepped forward. "The ship recognizes us, Commander. Its activated systems your people never knew existed." As if to demonstrate, a section of the wall opened, revealing technology that even Krell had never seen before. "Your ancestors found abandoned Eldaran technology," Elena explained gently. "But they couldn't fully access it because they didn't have the right genetic key. We do." Krell's four eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this information. "If what you say is true, this changes the balance of power significantly." Colonel West spoke for the first time. "Which means continuing this war would be costly for both sides." "The collective will not accept this," Krell warned. "They may have no choice," Jack said. Through his connection with the ship, he could feel its power. "Look outside." On screens around the chamber, they could see the Vraxian fleet in orbit. All 7 massive warships were dark, their systems disabled by a signal from the Eldaran vessel. "The defensive protocols affect all unauthorized Vraxian technology within range," the guide explained. "Your fleet is currently powerless." Krell slumped visibly. "You could destroy us all." "But we won't," Elena said quickly. "That's not what we want." Jack nodded. "We're offering peace, Commander. A new relationship between our peoples, based on mutual respect." 2 days later, in the same United Nations chamber where they had first seen Commander Krell's face, world leaders gathered to witness the signing of the Earth-Vraxian Treaty. Krell, speaking on behalf of the Vraxian collective, was practical in his approach. "The humans have proven themselves to be the genetic heirs of the Eldarans. We cannot dispute their claim to this technology. Rather than continue a costly conflict, we propose an alliance of mutual benefit." The terms were straightforward. The Vraxians would withdraw their fleet and recognize Earth's sovereignty. In exchange, humans would share some of their insights into Eldaran technology, particularly the interfaces that had previously been inaccessible to the Vraxians. Both sides knew the truth. Neither could afford a prolonged war. The humans had the advantage of the Eldaran genetic connection, but the Vraxians had centuries more experience with space travel and colonization. After the ceremony, Elena found Jack standing alone, looking out a window at the night sky. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Everything that's changed," he replied. 3 years ago, I was just a park ranger who found a crashed ship. Now I'm somehow connected to an ancient alien civilization." Elena smiled. "The guide told me there's so much more to learn. The ship's database contains the history of the Eldarans, our ancestors, their accomplishments, their art, their knowledge. And their mistakes," Jack added. "They were advanced enough to seed life across the stars, but something still caused their civilization to fall." Colonel West joined them, looking more relaxed than they had ever seen him. "The President has approved Project Starlight. We're going to build our first true starship using what we've learned. The Vraxians won't be the only aliens out there," Elena said. "There could be other Eldaran descendants on other worlds." Jack looked up at the stars again. The crashed ship hadn't been an ending, but a beginning. Humanity's first step toward a much larger universe and their cosmic heritage. "We have a lot of catching up to do," he said. "But at least now we know we're not alone." The three of them stood in silence, watching the stars that no longer seemed so distant or unreachable. The battle was over. Humanity's journey to the stars was just beginning.
The stars looked like tiny dots on a black canvas as the human ship Horizon moved slowly through the emptiness of space. Captain James stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main screen. He was a tall man with short gray hair and a face marked by years of space travel. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Officer Ryan, who was in charge of the ship's scanners. His fingers moved quickly across the glowing panel in front of him. "What is it?" James asked, walking over to Ryan's station. "It's a ship, sir, but it's not answering any of our calls, and it's not in our database." James frowned. They were far from any known space routes. Finding another ship here was unusual. "Show me." The main screen changed to show a massive vessel drifting silently in space. It was at least 5 times bigger than the Horizon. Its dark hull seemed to swallow the light from nearby stars, making it look like a shadow against the backdrop of space. Strange marks covered its surface, possibly writing in an unknown language. "Any life signs?" James asked. "None that we can detect, sir," Ryan replied. "The ship appears to be dead." The door to the bridge opened, and Engineer Marcus walked in. He was younger than James, with dark skin and clever eyes that missed nothing. Behind him came Science Officer Elena, her red hair tied back, and Security Officer Thorne, whose hand never strayed far from his weapon. "What did you find?" Marcus asked, looking at the screen. "A ghost ship," James said. "No life signs, no response to our calls." Elena moved to one of the science stations and began running her own scans. After a few minutes, she looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, the technology on that ship is unlike anything we've ever seen. The energy readings are off our charts, even though most systems seem to be dormant." "Could it be dangerous?" Thorne asked, ever cautious. "Anything unknown is potentially dangerous," Elena said. "But think about what we could learn from it." James thought for a moment. Their mission was to explore and gather knowledge. This strange ship was exactly the kind of discovery they were looking for, but Thorne was right to be careful. "What do we know about its weapons?" James asked. Ryan checked his readings again. "The ship has what appear to be weapon ports along its hull. Very advanced. If they were to activate, they could probably destroy us in seconds. But they're not active now." James pressed. "No, sir. Most of the ship seems to be in some kind of sleep mode." James made his decision. We're going to investigate. Thorn, prepare a boarding team. Elena, Marcus, you're with him. I want to know what that ship is and where it came from. Elena's face lit up, but Thorn frowned. Captain, I strongly advise against this, Thorn said. We don't know what's waiting for us there. That's exactly why we need to go, Elena argued. This could be the most important discovery of our time. I agree with Elena, Marcus added. As long as we're careful, the potential knowledge we could gain is worth the risk. James nodded. Prepare your team, Thorn. Take all necessary precautions. I want constant communication. At the first sign of danger, you return immediately. 30 minutes later, the small boarding shuttle left the horizon and approached the mysterious ship. Inside the shuttle, Thorn checked his weapon one last time, while Elena could barely contain her excitement. Marcus sat quietly, his mind already working on the engineering problems they might face. Look at the size of it, Elena whispered as they got closer. The alien ship loomed before them, massive and silent like a mountain floating in space. They found what looked like a docking bay and carefully guided their shuttle inside. The bay was dark, with only their shuttle's lights cutting through the blackness. As they landed, the team put on their spacesuits. Atmosphere check, Thorn asked. There's air, Marcus confirmed, looking at his scanner. It's breathable, but thin. Better keep our suits on for now. They stepped out of the shuttle into the vast docking bay. Their lights revealed rows of smaller craft, alien in design, parked neatly along the walls. Everything was covered in a fine layer of dust. How long has this ship been drifting? Thorn wondered aloud. Years, maybe centuries, Elena replied, running her hand along one of the alien craft. These ships look like they were built for speed. Maybe fighters. This whole place feels like a warship, Thorn said, his voice tense. Look at the design. Efficient. Nothing wasted. Built for a purpose. They made their way out of the docking bay into a long corridor. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly with a blue light. Can you read any of this? James asked over their communication link. Not yet, Elena replied. But the symbols seem to be reacting to our presence. They're getting brighter. As they moved deeper into the ship, they found more evidence of its military nature. Rooms filled with what looked like weapon storage, areas that could only be firing ranges for training. But strangely, they found no crew quarters, no command center. Where is everyone? Marcus asked. A ship this size would need hundreds of crew members. Maybe they abandoned it, Thorn suggested. They reached a massive door at the end of a corridor. Unlike the others they had passed, this one was sealed tight. Can we open it? Elena asked. Marcus studied the control panel beside the door. I think so. The ship's systems seem to be in a low-power state, but they're still functioning. He worked on the panel for several minutes, then stepped back as the massive door began to slide open slowly. A soft humming filled the air, growing louder as the door revealed what was behind it. They stood frozen, staring at the enormous chamber beyond the door. It was filled with rows upon rows of strange, transparent pods, each big enough to hold a human-sized being. A faint light pulsed within each pod, like a heartbeat. What is this place? Thorn whispered. Before anyone could answer, the lights in the chamber suddenly brightened. The humming grew louder. All around them, the ship was coming to life. Captain, Thorn called urgently over the comm. Something's happening. A ship is activating. Get back to the shuttle, James ordered. Now. But as they turned to leave, the door slid shut behind them. They were trapped. The ship's systems are waking up, Marcus said, checking his scanner. Power levels rising all over the vessel. On the walls, the strange symbols glowed brighter, changing patterns rapidly as if communicating. One by one, the pods in the chamber began to pulse with stronger light. Captain, we can't get out, Thorn reported. The doors locked us in. In the silence that followed, they heard a new sound, A deep, resonating tone that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It filled the chamber, vibrating through their bodies. "What is that?" Elena asked, her voice barely audible over the tone. "I think," Marcus said slowly, "the ship is talking to us." The tone changed, becoming a series of patterns. The symbols on the walls flashed in response. It's some kind of language, Elena realized. She pulled out her scanner and began recording. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Through the small windows in the chamber, they could see space outside beginning to move. The stars shifted position. "Captain," Thorne called urgently. "The ship is moving." "We can see it," James replied, his voice tense. "It's changing course. And its weapon systems are coming online." The ghost ship, silent for who knew how long, was awake now, and it was preparing for battle. Light years away, on the bridge of a massive warship, Admiral Dorn of the Voran fleet stared at the urgent message on his screen. His scaled skin paled to a light green as he read the report again. "It cannot be," he whispered. His second-in-command, Officer Krell, approached with caution. "Admiral, what is wrong?" Dorn pointed a clawed finger at the screen. "The destroyer has returned." Krell's eyes widened. "Impossible. It vanished centuries ago. Our long-range scanners have detected it. The energy signature is unmistakable." Dorn stood up, his tall frame towering over the other officers on the bridge. "Alert all battle stations. Prepare the fleet. We must destroy it before it awakens fully." As the Voran ship erupted into activity, Dorn walked to the large window overlooking space. The destroyer was a nightmare from Voran history, a vessel that had appeared without warning 300 years ago. It had turned 15 Voran worlds uninhabitable in less than a month before mysteriously disappearing. "We will not allow history to repeat itself," Dorn vowed. Back on the alien ship, Marcus was working frantically to understand the control panel next to the sealed door. Thorne stood guard with his weapon ready, while Elena studied the strange pods filling the chamber. "Any progress?" Thorne asked, his voice tense. "Not yet," Marcus replied. "The systems are unlike anything I've seen before. It's like they're organic somehow." Elena's voice called from across the room. "You need to see this." They joined her at one of the transparent pods. Inside was not a weapon as they had feared, but a collection of what looked like plants and soil samples. "This isn't a weapons storage," Elena said, excitement in her voice despite their situation. "It's some kind of biological sample chamber." Marcus frowned. "But the ship's design, everything we've seen points to a warship." "Maybe not," Elena said. "We've been seeing what we expected to see. Those rooms we thought were weapon storage. What if they're seed vaults? And those firing ranges could be testing grounds for different environments." Captain James's voice came through their comms. "Whatever it is, you need to find a way out now. We're picking up multiple ships approaching fast, and they don't look friendly." Thorne checked his scanner. "The ship's weapons are active, but they haven't fired. It's like it's waiting for something." Suddenly, the strange symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. The ship hummed with increasing power. "I think I've got it," Marcus said, his fingers dancing over the control panel. "The ship's language is based on mathematical patterns. I've been trying to communicate using our standard codes, but..." The door slid open. "How did you do that?" Thorne asked. Marcus looked puzzled. "I didn't. I think the ship understood what we're trying to do." They moved quickly back into the corridor, which was now fully lit. The symbols on the walls pulsed as if guiding them. "Follow the lights," Elena suggested. "I think it's showing us where to go." On the bridge of the horizon, Captain James watched with growing concern as a fleet of alien ships appeared on their scanners. The vessels were sleek and clearly designed for combat, with multiple weapon ports glowing with energy. "They're hailing us," Ryan reported. "Open a channel," James ordered. The screen flickered to show a tall, reptilian being with scaled green skin and vertical pupils. Behind him, a busy bridge crew worked at various stations. "Human vessel," the alien said, its voice deep and hostile. You have awakened the destroyer. Remove your people immediately or be eliminated with it. James stood straight, trying to project confidence. I am Captain James of the Earth vessel Horizon. We mean no harm. We found this ship abandoned and are merely exploring. That ship brought death to 15 of our worlds. The alien cut him off. It will not do so again. You have 10 minutes to evacuate your people before we open fire. The communication ended abruptly. James immediately opened a channel to his team. Thorn, Elena, Marcus, you need to get out now. We have alien vessels threatening to attack in less than 10 minutes. We're trying, Captain, Thorn replied. The ship is taking us somewhere. The team followed the pulsing lights through corridors that seemed to be changing as they walked. Walls shifted, doors opened and closed, guiding them deeper into the massive vessel. It's like it's alive, Elena whispered. They entered a large circular room that could only be the bridge. Unlike the utilitarian design of human ships, this one was beautiful, with flowing curves and living plants integrated into the control stations. A soft, golden light filled the room. This doesn't look like a warship's bridge, Marcus said, approaching what appeared to be the central console. As he touched it, a holographic display appeared above the console, showing the Voran fleet surrounding them. Red warning symbols flashed. I think it's telling us we're in danger, Elena said. Marcus studied the controls. There's some kind of log or record system here, if I can access it. As he worked, Thorn kept watch at the door. Captain, we've reached what looks like the bridge. Marcus is trying to access the ship's logs. Hurry, James replied. The alien commander, I think they called themselves Vorans, says this ship destroyed 15 of their worlds. They're calling it the Destroyer. Elena looked up sharply. That can't be right. Everything we're seeing suggests this ship was designed to create, not destroy. Marcus finally managed to activate something on the console. The holographic display changed to show a recording. They watched as the ship approached a planet covered in industrial waste and pollution. The ship deployed smaller vessels that released something into the atmosphere. Within minutes, the recording showed plants beginning to grow, spreading rapidly across the damaged landscape. It's a terraforming ship, Elena breathed. It doesn't destroy worlds, it heals them. Before they could process this revelation, the ship shuddered violently. They're firing on us, James shouted through the comm. The Voran fleet had opened fire, their energy weapons striking both the alien ship and the Horizon. Our shields won't hold for long, James reported. You need to get out of there now. But as Marcus moved away from the console, the alien ship responded. The entire bridge lit up, and they felt the vessel surge with power. On the holographic display, they could see defensive shields activating, deflecting the Voran attacks. It's protecting itself, Thorn said, and us. The ship moved with surprising grace for its size, positioning itself between the Horizon and the Voran fleet. Its weapon ports glowed, but instead of firing destructive energy, they released a pulse of blue light that disabled the weapons on the nearest Voran ships without damaging them. It's not trying to destroy them, Elena realized. It's just neutralizing the threat. Marcus continued working on the console, his face illuminated by the holographic display. I think I'm starting to understand its language. This ship was created by a race called, there's no direct translation, but something like gardeners or cultivators. They built it to restore planets damaged by industrial pollution. Then why do the Vorans see it as a destroyer? Thorn asked. Marcus found another recording and played it. It showed Voran ships attacking the alien vessel as it approached one of their planets. The recording then showed the same planet before and after the ship's intervention, changing from a toxic wasteland to a thriving ecosystem. I think I understand, Elena said slowly. The Vorans were deliberately polluting their planets for some reason. This ship came and reversed the damage against their will. They see it as destruction because it undid what they were trying to achieve. The ship shuddered again as more Voron weapons fire hit their shields. "We need to find a way to communicate with the Vorons," James said over the comm. "Tell them the truth before it's too late." As if in response to his words, the central console opened, revealing a crystal that glowed with inner light. Marcus reached for it hesitantly. "I think," he said, "this is how we speak to the ship." Marcus stared at the glowing crystal in the console. It pulsed with a gentle blue light, almost like a heartbeat. "Should I touch it?" he asked, looking at Alina and Thorn. "It could be dangerous," Thorn warned, his hand on his weapon. Alina moved closer, studying the crystal. "I don't think it means us harm. This ship could have killed us many times already if that was its intent." The ship shuddered again as more Voron weapons hit its shields. "We don't have much choice," Marcus said. "Captain, I'm going to try to communicate with the ship directly." "Be careful," James replied through the comm. "Our shields are failing. We can't hold out much longer." Taking a deep breath, Marcus placed his hand on the crystal. Immediately, a warm sensation spread up his arm and into his mind. Images flashed before his eyes. Planets being healed, ecosystems restored, life blooming in places that had been dead. Then he saw the Vorons, centuries ago. They were mining their planets for rare minerals, leaving toxic wastelands behind. The ship, which called itself the Garden of Dawn, had been sent to repair this damage. The Vorons had fought back, calling the ship a destroyer of their industry. Marcus pulled his hand away, gasping. "I saw its memories. The ship, it's called the Garden of Dawn. It was built to heal planets, not destroy them." "Did it show you how to communicate with the Vorons?" Thorn asked urgently. "I think so," Marcus said, turning back to the console. "It wants to establish a direct link to their ships." Working quickly, Marcus used the knowledge the ship had shared with him. The holographic display changed, showing Admiral Dorn's face. "Voron vessel," Marcus began. "Please cease fire. This ship is not what you think it is." Dorn's scaled face showed surprise, then anger. "Humans, you dare to control the destroyer." "We don't control it." Alina stepped forward. "We just understand what it truly is. This isn't a weapon of destruction. It's a terraforming vessel designed to heal damaged planets." "Lies," Dorn hissed. "Our history records the devastation it brought to 15 Voron worlds." "Those records are wrong," Marcus said firmly. "Or they were changed. We've seen the ship's own memories. It came to restore your planets after they were damaged by mining operations." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "The old mining operations. That was before my time. But our records are clear." A younger Voron officer appeared beside Dorn, whispering urgently in his ear. The Admiral's expression changed. "Admiral," the young officer said, loud enough for the humans to hear, "there are protests on 3 homeworlds. The old stories are spreading again. The ones our government tried to suppress." "What old stories?" Alina asked quickly. The young officer looked at her. "Stories that the ship you're on was a healer, not a destroyer. That our ancestors drove it away because it interfered with the mining corporation's profits." Dorn pushed the younger officer aside. "Enough. These are just tales told by environmentalist rebels." Another violent blast rocked both ships. On the holographic display, they could see more Voron vessels joining the attack. "Admiral," Captain James cut in, his face appearing on a separate screen. "I don't know what the truth is about your history, but I do know that neither this ancient ship nor my vessel has fired a single destructive shot at you. We've only used defensive measures. Does that seem like the action of a destroyer?" Dorn hesitated, clearly conflicted. Taking advantage of the moment, Marcus placed his hand on the crystal again. This time, he knew what to do. The ship responded immediately, projecting a massive hologram into space between the vessels. The hologram showed the history of the Garden of Dawn, its creation by the long-extinct gardeners, its mission to heal damaged worlds, and its encounters with the Voron centuries ago. It showed how the Voron mining corporations had attacked the ship to prevent it from restoring their polluted planets. It showed how the ship had been damaged and forced to enter a dormant state, drifting in space until the humans found it. "This is propaganda," Dorn shouted, but they could see the uncertainty in his eyes. "Admiral," the young officer said, "these images match the forbidden histories my grandmother told me. The histories that speak of a time when our people lived in harmony with our worlds, before the great mining operations began." More Voron ships had arrived, surrounding both the Garden of Dawn and the horizon in a tight formation. But not all of them were firing. Some seemed to be holding back, their crews perhaps watching the holographic history with new understanding. "Even if what you say is true," Dorn said finally, "this ship interfered with our sovereign right to use our planets as we saw fit. It is still an enemy." "Is it?" Elena asked. "Look at what happened to those 15 worlds after they were restored. Are they not now the most prosperous planets in your system? Are they not the homeworlds of your most healthy and successful populations?" The Admiral did not answer, but his silence spoke volumes. On the bridge of the Garden of Dawn, Marcus felt the ship communicating with him again. This time, it showed him how to access its most important systems. "This ship can help your people," Marcus told the Admiral. "It can teach you how to restore your worlds without losing the resources you need." The gardeners who built it didn't believe in denying progress. They believed in sustainable progress. The firing from some of the Voron ships had stopped completely now. The younger officer was speaking urgently to others on his bridge, and similar conversations seemed to be happening throughout the fleet. "Admiral Dorn," a new voice broke in. An older Voron appeared on the screen, wearing elaborate robes. "I am Elder Traz of the High Council. We have been monitoring this exchange. The historical records this ship provides match our secret archives. The truth has been hidden for too long." Dorn looked shocked. "High Elder, you cannot mean." "I mean that we must cease fire immediately," Elder Traz said firmly. "For centuries, our government has hidden the truth about the Garden of Dawn. It is time for that to end." Slowly, the weapons on the Voron ships powered down. The siege was lifting. But just as hope began to rise, alarms sounded throughout the Garden of Dawn. The ship trembled, and the lights flickered. "What's happening?" Thorn asked, looking around. Marcus checked the console. The ship sustained damage during the attack. Its core systems are failing. It's been dormant for too long, and the battle woke it before it was ready. Elena moved quickly to another control panel. "Is there anything we can do to help it?" "I don't know," Marcus said. "Its systems are incredibly complex." The crystal in the console was pulsing more weakly now, its light fading. "It's dying," Elena whispered. Outside, the first rays of a nearby star began to touch the hull of the ancient vessel. The ship had drifted into the light of dawn. And as the light grew stronger, something unexpected began to happen. As the first light of dawn touched the ancient ship, its hull began to change. The dark metal that had made it look like a weapon of war slowly transformed. Where there had been sharp angles, there were now gentle curves. Sections that had appeared to be weapon ports opened like flower petals, revealing crystal panels that caught the starlight and broke it into beautiful colors. "Look," Elena gasped, pointing at the holographic display that showed the ship's exterior. The Garden of Dawn was living up to its name. In the light of the nearby star, it was revealing its true form, not a warship, but a vessel of life and beauty. "It's absorbing the starlight," Marcus said, checking the readings on the console. "The ship is solar-powered. That's why it was dormant for so long in the darkness of deep space." A crystal in the console pulsed stronger now, its blue light becoming golden as it filled with energy. The ship's trembling stopped, and the alarms fell silent. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Dorn watched in amazement as the feared destroyer transformed before his eyes. "This is impossible," he whispered. But Elder Traz nodded slowly. "It is as the old story said. The ship of dawn changes with the light." Inside the Garden of Dawn, Marcus placed his hand on the crystal again. This time, the connection was stronger, clearer. The ship's history flowed into his mind in greater detail. "I can see it all now," he told Elena and Thorn. "The gardeners built this ship to travel the galaxy, healing worlds damaged by war or industrial pollution. They visited thousands of planets over centuries." "What happened to them?" Elena asked. "The gardeners, I mean." Marcus's face grew sad as the ship shared more of its memories. "They died out. A plague swept through their homeworld and colonies. The few who survived uploaded their knowledge into ships like this one, and sent them out to continue their work. So this ship has been alone, carrying on its mission without its creators?" Thorn asked, his usual caution softened by sympathy. "Yes," Marcus said, "for over 1,000 years." Captain James's voice came through their comms. "The Voran fleet is standing down. Most of their ships are retreating to a safe distance, but they're no longer in attack formation." "Captain," Elena said, "you won't believe what's happening here. The ship is transforming in the sunlight. It's beautiful." "I can see it on our scanners," James replied. "The energy readings have changed completely." As they spoke, new sections of the ship began to open. Walls slid away to reveal vast chambers, filled with plants and trees, self-contained ecosystems that had been hidden beneath the warlike exterior. "Follow me," Marcus said, feeling the ship's guidance through the crystal. "It wants to show us something." They left the bridge, following corridors that were now lined with living plants growing from what had seemed like solid metal walls. Light streamed in through newly revealed windows. The air was fresher, filled with the scent of growing things. They entered a massive dome at the center of the ship. Above them stretched a transparent ceiling showing the stars and the nearby sun. Below was an enormous garden with trees, flowers, and a small lake. It was like standing in the middle of a perfect forest on Earth. "This is incredible," Elena whispered, touching a leaf on a nearby tree. "These are samples from thousands of worlds. A living library of life." "No wonder it needs solar power," Thorn said. "It's supporting an entire ecosystem." In the center of the garden stood a pedestal with a larger version of the crystal from the bridge. As they approached, it began to glow brighter. "I think it wants us to activate it," Marcus said. Together, the three of them placed their hands on the crystal. Light flowed from it, forming a holographic image above them. A figure appeared, tall and slender, with features that seemed both plant-like and humanoid. "A gardener," Elena breathed. The figure spoke, its voice translated by the ship into words they could understand. "Greetings, new friends. If you are viewing this message, you have awakened the Garden of Dawn from its long sleep. I am Lauren, last navigator of this vessel. Our race is no more, but our mission continues through ships like this one. We traveled the stars, bringing life back to worlds damaged by war, pollution, or natural disaster. We sought no reward, only the continuation of life in all its forms." A hologram change, showing scenes of barren worlds being transformed into vibrant living planets. "This ship contains the seeds and genetic material of millions of species from across the galaxy. It can analyze any damaged ecosystem and provide the exact balance of life forms needed to restore it. It is not a destroyer, but a healer, though sometimes healing requires the removal of that which causes harm." The hologram shifted again, showing the ship's encounter with the Voran worlds. "The people you know as Vorans were destroying their own planets for short-term gain. Their leaders refused our help, but their people suffered. We chose to act despite their leaders' objections. This was perhaps our only violation of our code of non-interference. The ship was damaged in the conflict and forced to flee, entering a dormant state to repair itself." Marcus, Elena, and Thorn exchanged looks as the truth of the ship's history was confirmed. "The Garden of Dawn now passes to you. Its knowledge and power are yours to use wisely. May you continue our work, bringing life where there is death, healing where there is harm. The ship will teach you what you need to know." The hologram faded, leaving them standing in silence around the crystal. "Did it just Give us the ship. Thorne asked in disbelief. I think it did, Alina said softly. Marcus still had his hand on the crystal. It's more than that. It's asking us to continue its mission, to become the new gardeners. Their conversation was interrupted by Captain James's urgent voice on the comm. Team, we've got a situation. The Voran ships are coming back. They rushed to a nearby window. Through it, they could see that the Voran fleet was indeed returning, forming a circle around the Garden of Dawn and the horizon. Are they preparing to attack again? Thorne asked, reaching for his weapon. No, Marcus said, feeling the ship's thoughts through his connection to the crystal. The ship doesn't sense any hostile intent. A communication request flashed on a panel near them. Marcus accepted it, and Elder Traz's face appeared. Humans, the Elder Voran said, what you have revealed today has shaken the foundations of our society. For centuries, our government hid the truth about the Garden of Dawn and its mission. The corporations that destroyed our worlds for profit twisted the narrative, making this ship of healing into a monster in our history. The Elder bowed his head. We have much to atone for. Many of our worlds still suffer from the damage of that time. Others have been restored but are poorly managed. We would request the aid of the Garden of Dawn once more. Elena looked at Marcus. Can the ship help them? Marcus nodded, feeling the ship's eager response. It was built for exactly this purpose. It wants to fulfill its mission. There's just one problem, Thorne pointed out. None of us knows how to operate a ship like this. It's far beyond our technology. A soft chime sounded from the crystal. Marcus listened to the ship's thoughts. The ship says it can teach us, he said slowly. It was designed to pass its knowledge to new crews when the time came. It's been waiting for someone to awaken it and continue its work. Captain James's voice came through again. What's happening down there? The Vorans are requesting to send representatives aboard both ships. Captain, Alina replied, excitement in her voice. I think we just became diplomats for the most important mission of our lives. As she spoke, the dome above them filled with the full light of the rising sun. The Garden of Dawn gleamed like a jewel in space, no longer the feared warrior vessel of legend, but revealed at last in its true purpose. And in that light, the humans faced a choice that would change not just their lives, but the fate of countless worlds across the galaxy. 1 week had passed since the humans first boarded the Garden of Dawn. The ancient vessel now orbited a small Voran colony world called Trasfor, named after the Elder who had helped reveal the truth. Captain James stood on the observation deck of the ship, watching a small shuttlecraft move between the Garden of Dawn and the planet below. The once barren world was already showing signs of change. Green patches had begun to appear on its surface, where the ship's healing technology had been deployed. It's happening even faster than we expected, Alina said, joining him at the window. The ship says the full restoration will take less than a year. James nodded, still amazed by what they have discovered. Have you heard from Marcus? He's still in the knowledge chamber, Alina replied. The ship is teaching him about the advanced healing systems. He says it's like learning 1,000 years of science in days. Thorne entered the observation deck, accompanied by 2 Voran officers. Unlike their first meeting, the aliens now showed no fear or hostility toward the humans. Captain, Thorne said, the Voran High Council has sent their official request. James turned to face them. Let me guess. They want us to restore more of their worlds. The taller Voran, Officer Merrick, bowed slightly. Yes, Captain. Our leaders have finally acknowledged the damage done to our ecosystem over centuries. There are 17 worlds in urgent need of the Garden of Dawn's help. 17 worlds, James repeated. That would take years. We understand this is a significant commitment, the second Voran said. But your discovery of this ship has changed everything for our people. For centuries, we were taught that technology and progress meant taking from our planets. Now we see there is another way. James looked out at the stars. What had begun as a simple exploration mission had turned into something much more important. His superiors back on Earth had been stunned by his reports. They had given him extraordinary authority to negotiate with the Vorons and use the Garden of Dawn as he saw fit. "What do you think?" he asked Alina and Thorn. "The ship wants to do this," Alina said simply. "It's what it was built for." Thorn nodded. "And honestly, sir, I can't think of a more important mission than bringing life back to dead worlds." James made his decision. "Tell your council we accept, but we'll need help. We need Voron scientists and crew members to join us. This ship was meant to be a place where different species work together." The Vorons agreed eagerly and left to communicate the news to their leaders. "I never imagined our mission would end up like this," James said when they were alone again. "And," Alina laughed, "Captain, I think it's just beginning." Deep in the heart of the Garden of Dawn, Marcus sat in the knowledge chamber. The walls around him were covered with living displays showing the intricate details of countless ecosystems. The central crystal pulsed with light as it transferred information directly into his mind. He had been here for days, learning from the ship. The knowledge was vast: how to analyze damaged environments, how to select the right combination of plants and animals to restore balance, how to use the ship's technology to speed up natural processes that would normally take centuries. But today, the ship was showing him something different. It was showing him other vessels like the Garden of Dawn, dozens of them, sent out by the gardeners before their extinction, each carrying the same mission to different parts of the galaxy. "There are more ships out there?" Marcus asked aloud, knowing the ship could understand him. The crystal pulsed in confirmation. Images showed other healing ships, some active, some dormant, scattered across the stars. "Can we find them? Wake them?" Again, the crystal pulsed. A star map appeared, showing the last known locations of the other vessels. Marcus understood what the ship was suggesting. The Garden of Dawn had found new caretakers in the humans and Vorons. Perhaps its sister ships could also be awakened, creating a fleet of healing vessels that could restore life throughout the galaxy. He stood up, excited to share this discovery with the others. On the bridge of the Garden of Dawn, a small ceremony was taking place. Representatives from both the human crew and the Voron fleet had gathered to officially mark the beginning of their joint mission. Captain James stood next to Elder Traz, facing the assembled crew. The bridge had transformed since they first discovered it. What had once seemed cold and mechanical was now alive with plants growing along the walls and ceiling. Light streamed in through crystal panels, and the air was fresh and sweet. "Today marks a new beginning," James said. "For too long, our species have seen progress as something that comes at the cost of our worlds. The Garden of Dawn teaches us a different path, one where technology and nature work together in harmony." Elder Traz stepped forward. "For centuries, my people feared this ship, calling it the Destroyer. We were wrong. It came not to destroy, but to heal. Not to take, but to give." He bowed deeply to the ship itself. "We ask forgiveness for our blindness and pledge to walk the path of balance from this day forward." As if in response, the crystal at the center of the bridge glowed brightly. The holographic figure of Lauren, the last gardener, appeared once more. "Your words are accepted," the ancient recording said. "The cycle continues. New gardeners arise." Though it was just a recording, the message seemed perfectly timed, as if the ship had been waiting for this moment. Marcus burst onto the bridge, his face flushed with excitement. "Captain, Elder, the ship has shown me something incredible. There are other vessels like this one out there, waiting to be found." A murmur of amazement spread through the gathered crew. "A fleet of healing ships," Alina whispered. "Imagine what we could accomplish." James looked at Elder Traz, who nodded in understanding. Their mission had just grown much larger. "First, we restore the Voron worlds as promised," James said. "Then, we search for the other ships." As he spoke, the Garden of Dawn began to move, turning gracefully toward the damaged planet below. Its outer hull, now fully transformed in the light, gleamed with colors that seemed to shift and change like a living thing. Sections opened like blossoming flowers, preparing to release the seeds and organisms that would bring life back to the barren world. On the surface below, Voron colonists gathered outside their domed habitats to watch. Many had brought their children to witness the historic moment. They pointed up at the sky where the Garden of Dawn shone like a new star. "Look," a Voron parent told a child. "That is not a warrior ship as our old stories claimed. It is a healer, a maker of worlds." "Will our planet be green again?" the child asked. "Yes," the parent replied. "The dawn is breaking on a new age for our people." Above them, the ship that had been feared as a destroyer for centuries began its work of creation. Light streamed from its open sections, carrying the seeds of life down to the waiting world. And standing on the bridge, humans and Vorons together watched as the first new forests began to grow on the planet below, spreading like a green wave across the land that had been dead for generations. The Garden of Dawn had found its purpose once more, and with it, both species had found a new path forward, not as conquerors of worlds, but as their caretakers and healers. The dawn had truly broken on a new age for all.